Hi, everyone.
And Wi-Fi pod.
Welcome back.
It's location number 2.
Oh, right. We're on special, super secret location.
Is it secret? No, we draw attention to it.
Every time.
To whoever comes in this house.
Well,
whether it be someone
you do.
Physically. Wow. I love it. I'm proud of it.
I know. I love that.
Do you?
Yes. It's very cute in here.
Front desk.
Oh.
So here's how my day went. Played golf early in the morning. Right?
Yeah.
Came home, had coffee. Did a couple podcasts. Took the dogs for a walk around 1:30 to 2. Then I was doing some research, some prep for today's podcast.
Yes.
While I had a gin and tonic and smoked a cigar.
Dear Lord.
Then I meditated a second time with you at 4.
Yep.
Nap until 5:15. And here we are.
Here we are.
How was that day, Ayurvedically speaking?
Oh.
For kapha?
Yeah. Well, we did okay.
Yeah.
I definitely made some not good food choices today, and so did you, because the pizza's almost gone.
I had 2 slices of pizza for lunch.
I know. It's just not a great idea.
It was after I came back from the walk, so it was around 2:15.
Yeah. But the schedule, like get up, move, do the things, right? You're out in the golf course.
Yeah.
You do drive around in the golf cart, but you're hopping all over the place.
In your head, am I just a rabbit?
No.
Playing golf?
You're just a bear. And
well, if I was a bear, then it would take me forever to finish if I was just walking.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing you have a little bear cart.
Do you see me look like I'm just like spilling out of it because I'm just so huge from driving it like this?
So then, I mean, you did great. You did most of like the worky work stuff in Pitta hours.
Yeah, which is what, 10 to 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were doing some like creative brainstorming and like brushing up and chilling.
Yeah.
During Vata hours, and then
Vata hours are 2 to 6?
2 to 6.
I did do that.
Yeah.
Didn't even mean to.
And then meditated, took a little siesta.
Yeah.
Not very long though, because we meditated for 20 minutes.
And 40 minutes, I think.
Yep. And then we're here we are.
Wow.
What time is it now?
It's like
6?
6:03.
All right.
Well, I'm just in the natural flow.
You're in the natural flow.
I know.
And so we've just begun kapha hours, and we're about to record this chatsies. And then we're gonna grind these gears to a halt.
Yes.
Well, we're not, because we have to pack.
I mean, how much packing is getting done today?
I don't know right now.
0. 0.
I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
So,
A minus?
I would say an A.
Nice.
Solid A.
All right, great.
Yeah, like not even like a 94. Like probably a 96.
That's like an A plus. 95 to 100 is A plus.
No, A plus is like 98.
Oh.
To 100.
See? Oh, do you do like A plus, A minus?
Yeah.
It's very... And you had this empowering school with no grades?
I know.
Like A minuses.
Like,
minuses.
Ooh, A minuses.
Oof. Jeez, way to bring down the A. Yeah, it's an A.
It's an A.
I sound like you. Just an A. But I was wondering, because I did not even try to do all those things. Really, I was just like, here's what I got to do today. I'll be in the flow of the day.
You're really good at being in the natural flow of things.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Until someone tells me I got something to do at a time, then I get all in a tizzy.
It's true.
I'm actively trying not to do that anymore.
What, get in a tizzy?
I'm just like, you have to go somewhere this time.
Oh.
Trying.
Yeah.
How you doing? Any check-ins? What do you got?
Well, I feel like we're in full go right now because we're gonna go on vacation. So
so
you know,
this is gonna drop in like 3 weeks.
Yep. By the time this drops, we'll be at the end of our
almost
vacation.
Back from vacation, having gone to North Carolina, then to Iowa, then to home.
All the things.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
What are we here to do?
We're here to talk about archetypes.
Yeah, we are.
Specifically, now I was about to deep dive or shallow dive, maybe like swimmer stroke.
Broad stroke.
Well, I was gonna swimmers dive because they don't
Mhm,
deep dive; they
mhm,
just
mhm.
like stay close to the surface.
Yep.
Of all of the masculine archetypes, but we're not doing all of them.
No, that's too much in one
It
podcast.
really is, yeah. Especially if we're gonna balance it out with feminine.
Right.
If we're gonna look at them as a pair.
Yep.
Or as a team.
Yep.
Then yeah.
I would like to hear from some of our students, by the way, on your thoughts around an archetypal polarity course taught by Matt and I. So I've thrown this idea around for years at this point.
I had that thought today walking around the dogs. Well, the thought of what do I contribute to Yoga Farm?
Okay.
Where I'm not usually in front of the camera teaching.
I mean, you're not, but you're in front of the camera weekly now.
It's true.
So
I don't even count that. Because it's, I don't know, part of me is like, didn't have to go to school or do any special training or receive a certificate for this.
Uh-huh.
I just show up and myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the easiest prep to do, really. And then, yeah, so I'm like, what do I offer? And then I think of, I had this thought yesterday because we were talking about membership.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone, not everyone, but a lot of staff.
Yeah, everyone. In some way.
Except you.
Except for you.
Has something to offer. And I kept thinking, God, genuinely wish I had something to offer so I could be of use because I'm just the only schlob.
That's ridiculous.
Not putting something forward. But then I'm like, what do I have to put forward? So it just, you just work with what you have and that's fine.
I mean, you do a lot of things and membership wouldn't happen without you because you post everything in membership. And
just click and make it whatever. Thank
you have a lot of things that you could offer and teach, but we've had this conversation before, so I don't want to hear from you about it. I want to hear from the students.
So
I want to hear from our listeners.
I did have the thought
about
you're always getting me to teach a relationship course or something like that, and I just think, what the heck would I even say? What would I even offer?
Well, what is it that they say, right? To be considered an expert at something, you have to study it for 1,000 hours.
I thought it was 10,000.
Oh. No, I think it's 1,000.
No, it's definitely 10,000.
It's 10,000?
Right, or to be a master in a skill or something.
Okay, but I'm not talking about being a master.
Are we just saying proficient?
I'm saying enough to guide others who have less proficiency than you.
Okay, so if this is D&D...
So let's just say it's 1,000 hours.
I am proficient, not masterful. So this is like a +2.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, I would
+4.
say I'm not masterful at anything. I would say I'm a jack of all trades, not a master of a single one. And what I can do is walk down a path, turn around a little bit, come back and gather people to bring with me the next time I walk down it. That I can do without being a master. So I hear the struggle with using the word master.
But I struggle with what would I even talk about? Mm-hmm. What do I have to say or offer?
I would say that you have studied more than 1,000 hours in husbandry.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you know what? It's funny. We have a long car ride ahead of us.
We do.
Maybe this is something we talk about.
All right.
Because instead of just you bringing up the idea.
Right.
And me saying, no, what do I have to offer?
Exactly.
Every 8-12 weeks, I could actually have this conversation and then we can either move forward or put it to bed.
I love it.
Okay.
Let's have that conversation.
All right. That's what fun. We'll lead the car off. 5 a.m. We'll
5 a.m. We'll start up. Now, we're not going to do that during anywhere close to running into kapha hours.
No.
So we'll wait.
Is that a pitta? 10 to 2? No, it sounds like a brainstorming.
I think it's brainstorming. I think probably we'll stop somewhere. We'll meditate.
Yeah.
And then we'll get back in the car and we'll have this conversation.
We're one of those couples that stops and meditates at the rest stop.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to do. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, fine.
I
I'm
love it.
in for the preliminary discussion process.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Okay.
And on that same exact topic, archetypes and archetypal patterns and the ways that we move through them is something that is a really helpful skill and awareness to have, a consciousness to have, and bring into relationships.
It is, and it's hard because in preparation for this episode, I was rereading the chapter in the book on archetypes that we're going to discuss today. And one of the great things about this book that I love, and it's worth revisiting often, is that it's a lot of theoretical, but it's also like gives great examples. So it's like at the end of we're discussing the masculine archetype of the warrior. So at the end of this chapter, there's a whole section, how to access your warrior.
How to do it.
And it says, here are the qualities.
Oh.
Holy cow. Lovely. Also, it gives examples of healthy and unhealthy or mature man version of the energy versus the immature boy energy.
Right.
And then the positive and negative light and shadow aspect of the energy as well. And it's got a diagram, which I love. It gives examples, and of course I just dive into every book or movie or TV show.
Yeah.
Think of other examples.
Yeah.
That, for me, it just helps ground it. Because, you can give me all these... I mean, I go to the point of, like, when he's describing someone who is a healthy warrior, I just like, oh, this character in this movie, boom. That's the first thing I go to. So, I think...
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of archetypes, right? Is like, why do we have Buddha? Why do we have Jesus? Why do we have all of these, this personification of qualities?
Yeah.
It's because without that example, it's hard to see ourselves in those roles. Right. So it's much easier when we can be like, oh, this is the archetype, right? This is what I'm dropping into. So there are 4 main feminine archetypes.
So what is the feminine archetype for that? Not mirrors, but balances the warrior?
Balances would be the mother.
The mother.
Yep, the mother archetype and the warrior archetype. Always
surprises me how those two line up. Like if you get the 4 feminine archetypes and masculine, I, in my masculine-centered brain, say, oh, these are the ones that match up clearly. So I automatically forget that it's not the maiden.
Right.
Because you think warrior, hero... Who's opposite that often in stories, myths, movies, stuff like that? It's often the maiden, which I have an example of that later, which I discovered today or thought about today. But it's not. You said mother?
Mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm always fascinated how those two, because it's polarity, not it's the same.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, well, let's back up a little bit. So there are 4 main feminine archetypes that we move through, particularly in the Spiritual Warrior program. So we talk about them a lot. We talk about how to work with them. We talk about how to invoke them. And people ask all the time, like, what is the book? Because there's this fantastic book for masculine archetypes. And I have not found one. What there is out there are books on maiden, mother, crone. So maiden energy, mothering, caregiving energy, or creator energy, crone or wise woman, older woman energy. Like those 3 main archetypes are talked about a lot in books, and the enchantress or the witch is left out. The witch is totally left out of that equation. So personally, I haven't found a book yet. Maybe eventually I will write one.
That's what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing now is that I feel like we should stop this podcast right now. So you should go work on a treatment for this.
Just go work on the book treatment.
I'll cook dinner. I got everything for the next couple hours.
Sure.
You go pound out an outline, rough outline. But maybe that'll be we can weave that in.
To our car ride.
To our car ride.
I love it.
Yeah.
And so there are 4 main masculine archetypes, which are the magician, the warrior, the lover, and the king.
In this book.
In the book, the title is a different order.
King, Warrior. If you type those all words into Google, it'll still come up. King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette.
So good.
It's so good. It's short. I've underlined and dog-eared it often. And it's worth checking out.
It's just so good.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go into all 8 of these archetypes. We're going to focus on 2 that are seasonally appropriate.
I was about to ask why these 2.
Yeah.
Why seasonally?
So you remember when we were talking about how the doshas have different seasons, and right now we're in Pitta season.
Yes.
So the feminine archetypes have different seasons as well.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're in the mother season or the creator season. So thinking about it like quite literally in the aspect of things have been planted and they are growing and we are about to harvest them in the fall.
Okay.
So like that growing season, lots of fire, lots of creating energy and life-giving energy, right? Fertility, all of that. Summertime.
Nice.
Summertime.
So why is the warrior just along for the ride? Because it goes with the mother archetype, and that's why it's like warrior season, not necessarily. I think like the masculine archetypes are just got to be like know when it is, and be ready for it. It's not like because the feminine archetypes seem to be very seasonal. I didn't say reactionary, but they respond to the seasons.
Yes.
And things like that. I mean, cycles very much too.
Well, that's it. Feminine archetypes cycle with the natural rhythms of the year and with the natural rhythm of the moon.
And I feel like dude archetypes, it's like if I had a little...
Dude
types, if the dude... wasn't even meaning to say that, I'm sorry. Masculine archetypes. If I had like a little device and like, boop, hit my watch and like a menu popped up, it's like King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. I could scroll through which one I want and pick it. And it's like, be this one. Be this one now.
Well, yes and no. I mean, you're going to be able to cultivate those ones more easily. And if we wanted to, we could even match up masculine archetypes with elements and the energy that they bring to the table, right? So the lover archetype is very watery, very emotional. Yeah. The warrior archetype is very fiery, very action-oriented.
King is very earth.
King is very, very
earth. Nailed it. I'm getting so good at this.
And the magician is very airy, is very creative and what's the word?
Well, I mean, I think it
spontaneous.
Right, like that one, the magician, I feel like dips into the ether or like the other worlds to pull the wisdom and study the ancients or stuff like that, whereas the lover is more about the art and creativity, right, and connecting with emotions,
right. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So good, babe.
Ah, I'm so proud of myself.
I'm so proud of you, too. It's really good.
I'll try to be more professional and level, even keel about this, but I doubt it.
What? So, likewise, the feminine archetypes are also associated with elements and elementals. But beyond that, like, we are in fire season. We already talked about that on the podcast recently, and not only are we in fire season, we're in like abundance, fertility, like all of those creation related words, and all of that is very mother archetype energy.
Well, it makes me think of Imbolc when the idea is planting the seeds or like getting ready for when the earth is ready. And now is like, I mean, it's like, look at the garden. I go in and see like, we planned for it. We planted some starters and seeds, and it's now the time of year where stuff is growing and it's here right now, kind of thing.
And we're tending to it, right? So the seeds are doing their thing, and it's our job to like make sure that the environment that they're in is nourished and is getting enough light and getting enough water and not getting squeezed out by weeds. So we're tending to things. That's very mothering energy, to be cultivating and tending to things.
I like that.
Yeah.
So good.
So it's really hard to grow things and to be creative and abundant and in that flow if you are not in a space where you feel safe and protected. The warrior archetype shows up in service to the mother so that that mothering energy can feel safe and protected.
Okay. And I will interject and say warrior is different than hero.
100%.
Because in this book, like I said earlier, there's the there's the man. We'll just use man and boy in this.
Man and boy, sure.
And we use that as, there's the man energy, the grown up, mature energy,
masculine,
mature. And then there's the boy energy, the immature, haven't grown up yet. Now, this does not necessarily mean age.
Right.
Right? It's about energy. So
Yep.
I'm sure we could think of people we've known in our lives that may be technically adults.
Or famous people or politicians.
Right.
Yeah.
And do they have mature masculine warrior energy? I mean, let me describe what exactly it is. Or the boy version, which is the hero.
Right.
Right? And it's reading that again, I forgot that it was called the hero, because we have discussions sometimes about, what makes the warrior the masculine or the man mature version, not the hero. Well, like the hero likes to save the day, and the warrior does too, but that's all the hero wants to do. They want to save the day, but they don't really want to stick around for the aftermath. For lack of a better comparison, the epilogue.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The hero energy or immature masculine energy is about a very quick and bombastic, like coming in on the chariot, like it's a knight, right? The knight in shining armor coming in and slaying the dragon and getting all the rewards. But then, like, if they're not able to mature into the warrior, they might get bored, they might get listless, they might start drama and conflict in order to go and do a thing, to have more, accolades, or to bring more attention towards them.
Let me get my notes.
I love your notes.
Right, and the warrior is often kind of impetuous.
Yep.
As far as their actions instead of... Well, I think there's a great quote in the book. It said, like...
Wait, the warrior is impetuous?
I'm sorry, the hero.
The hero is
impetuous. Is action for action's sake.
Right.
And I think the quote in the book says, warriors need aggression in appropriate times.
Right.
When is that? How do you know when it's a time to be appropriately aggressive as opposed to
aggression
impulsive
for aggression
or impulsive?
Yeah. So
how do we want to walk through this?
How do we want to? I don't know. I don't know if I have like an idea of exactly how we walk through it. It's just a matter of like where your energy shows up. So I also, before we go any further, I do want to say all of these archetypes exist within us regardless of gender identity or, so I can notice and activate and be conscious of my warrior. Like I am fiercely protective of our nonprofit organization. Fiercely protective.
Yeah.
I will show up in my warrior archetype to ensure the sustainability and the best foot forward of this organization forever. Like it is an archetype that I can see myself stepping into when it calls for it, and it's not my default. And whereas I wouldn't want to go to like the hero archetype. The hero might actually see like competition. I don't believe that there's competition, particularly between like yoga studios and yoga businesses. And the warrior part of me is like, I am protecting the mission, the vision, the ethics, the principles of this kingdom, right? Of an organization. Right. So I just want to be clear that like, it doesn't matter what your gender identity is. You can go in and out of any of these archetypes. And ideally, you find the two of them in cahoots, right? Yeah. So that beautiful feminine mothering energy working alongside the warrior energy that is within you, within all of us at the same time. And they balance each other out. And they're a sustainable way of showing up in the world.
Yeah, I feel like almost a disclaimer that I don't think need to make, but is always nice as far as like the terms we're using. Yeah. Like saying man and boy, masculine archetype, feminine archetype. I think it's all variations of energy that show up in anyone.
Yep.
And it's just the difference is the amount is in both sides. Like if you identify as more masculine, maybe your warrior will show up more often than the mother. You know what I mean? I think would I be wrong in saying my mother archetype showed up yesterday when we were at our staff meeting, and then Madeline walked in with the baby and she put the baby down, and I was like, oh, so excited to see you, and she just like took 3 steps and plopped into my arms and just like settled in for a little nappy nap.
Yep. Just
I would
snuggled
say
in.
that could be a mother archetype.
Yeah,
Or
and
energy.
totally. And it's easy to go to like mother archetype when it involves
caregiving.
children.
Yeah.
Right? And so I just always like to also give the asterisk on the side of like mother creator. You create books, you create curriculum, you create a garden bed, you create, like, there's so many other things that we create and give birth to besides children.
Right.
So for people who are like, well, I'm not a mother or a parent or a grandparent, a papa,
right, therefore
you're stepping into those archetypes in the other things that you create and co-create in the world. A business, you know. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so you want to talk about the mother characteristics and how they present and how, or do you want me to just talk about the warrior for a little bit?
I think that the main thing that I want to say about, you know, healthy mothering archetype is to compare it to unhealthy mothering archetype.
Okay.
So similar to the immature versus mature.
Well, not only
masculine.
that, I mean, there's the immature and the mature. Both can be healthy. And
both can be toxic.
Right, but also both warrior and hero have shadow aspects. They have two of them.
Mm-hmm.
One, and it's passive and active. Like one is a one negative side, be the action someone is taking. And, you know, obviously the passive side is shadow because of what they're not doing or what they're allowing to happen. Kind of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because in masculine energy, it wouldn't be unusual for the passive masculine to be out of alignment and the active masculine to be in alignment. And the opposite is true for feminine, the feminine side of us.
Yeah.
So when we're in our feminine and we're in our light aspect or our growth aspect, it is to be passive. It's to allow, to release the grasp. When we are active, it is often our shadow that comes out. We're trying to manipulate, trying to shift. So to bring it into, you know, for example, trying to force something that you are birthing and then raising into being a certain way would be an example of a negative or also active toxic mother archetype. Control, the overly controlling mother archetype. And there's just so many of these things out in pop culture, right? Like we could go to like Mommy Dearest, right? Like super intense, that, you know, which seems obvious. We could also say at times like if anybody's ever watched Modern Family.
Oh yeah.
Right. Modern Family. I love Modern Family as an example of archetypes because that show has almost all of them in it somewhere.
Yeah.
Because of the ensemble cast. So in Modern Family, one of the main characters is Claire. And Claire is often in her mother archetype. She is very active and she's trying to control and manipulate scenarios. She has a little bit of OCD. She wants things to be the way that she wants them to be. And she can kind of have a meltdown. She also spends a lot of time teetering a little bit too much into her masculine energy and a lot of action. So that's how you see that demonstrated. It's like when we are...
Wow, you're the first to drop a pop culture reference.
Wow.
Before I did. Nice.
When we're mothering something, it is in our best interest and in the light aspect to operate as if you are a steward of that thing. You are here to ensure its longevity, its safety, its protection in some ways, but not in a clinging, grasping, helicopter, you know, oppressive type of energy.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing
that would be
to check in about.
Like a shadow aspect of the mother.
Yeah.
Like this book that I have on masculine archetypes has several subcategories, whereas you're referencing doesn't have that, you know, breakdown, so to speak, but it's like light and shadow kind of thing.
Light and shadow. Yep.
Well, it's funny that you say that because it made me think of a shadow aspect of the warrior is the statist. You know, it's like the emotional sword is swinging at everybody. And there's a
Yep.
quote in here that I underlined and can't find it, but it's like the fathers that make war on the sons.
Yep.
Either for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm sure, like, he references the book and movie The Great Santini by Pat Conroy, I think.
Okay.
It's about the Great Santini. The character is he's a father, but he was a Marine pilot, and it's like, how does his father interact with his family? And he is the sadist in as far as this, you know, he's runs his family like a Marine Corps unit, emotionally cut off, and then eventually it comes to what we can assume is the natural conclusion, where conflict between the wife, conflict between the children, like unhealthy, aggressive conflict. I was supposed to read it when I was a senior in high school before school year, but it was it was my last year of summer reading.
And you were like, nah.
There was a movie starring Robert Duvall, and by then my mom was like, I don't care. School starts tomorrow. I rented the movie for you. Hopefully there's some overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember Robert Duvall was good in it because he played a great, overbearing, aggressive father figure. So it's kind of like that, but I mean, I feel like the father has a more likely or potential to be not only emotionally harmful, but physically, like abuse, you know, I mean, that's how that kind of plays out a lot.
Well, I always think of the perfect example of this in my mind, this is not going to be surprising to you at all, is the father from Legends of the Fall.
Oh.
Because first and foremost, he was a soldier.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of PTSD because of that nobody was talking about. Like,
of course.
Obviously, this takes place at the turn of the century.
Shit, they weren't talking about that 30 years ago.
Right. And he has 3 sons, and he never develops beyond the warrior archetype. He's never able to step into the king, and he's brutal to his sons and pours a lot of expectations in them.
Right.
And then there's also, because there were multiple sons, there's like the son who died too young, so is instantly going to always be the hero in that dad's eyes, and then the good son and the bad son.
Right, but I mean, I think he didn't like either. Like,
he didn't really like either of them.
There's the one son played by
Aidan Quinn.
Yeah. What was his name?
Alfred.
Who, I mean, every time he like went to Helena for, like, he was a politician basically.
His dad was just sick of it.
His dad was just like, he'd go back and see him all the time and see like how much he's done. Wants to, you know,
never good enough.
Progressive, like as far as like, let's modernize this.
Very cutting in words and feedback. Mm-hmm.
Never happy with anything. And then the other side was Brad Pitt's Tristan.
Yep,
right? Tristan. Who just like was like, I don't care. I'm gonna go out on a boat and like I'm gonna self-soothe. You know, like Thor in Endgame, just disassociate, and I'll be back when I'm back. Maybe, don't care.
Yeah, like that cycle of not being able to step into the king because they're not able to move into the lover archetype either. You know, they can't move through that and process and express through emotion and connection and intimacy, any of them, because they all have violence, terrible memories stuck in this unhealthy warrior archetype that they all showed up in some way, because they all ended up being a part of a war and a conflict. And I mean, even the dad couldn't step into his warrior and couldn't step into his move through his lover, which is why their mother left. I mean, like they didn't get divorced, but she didn't live with them.
Pause.
Guys, it's just so ridiculous.
Sit down.
Can you just chill?
Sit.
You could be in here if you could just not be extra.
Sit down. Sit.
Henry?
Lay down. Down. No. Can I get him out of here?
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
Can't handle it.
Bad behavior is on display. All the world to see. God damn it. Fucking Christ.
You're all bad. Naughty dogs.
Oh my God. You take that back right now. Come on. You're good dogs. You're very good. Naughty. What the hell's the matter with you?
Well, this is ridiculous. This is opening the door like velociraptors.
Naughty. What is... Are you insane? What the hell are we talking about?
All right, we ready?
Sure. Action.
So the mother in that show was that movie was basically like absent because she couldn't even be in her mother archetype because the warrior couldn't show up in a light aspect in a balanced way. And so she pieced out. She was like, I'm going to live in an apartment in the city and you do whatever. Yeah.
I thought you were just making it up.
No.
Oh.
No,
okay.
she wouldn't live in that house. She wouldn't do the whole...
Right, but I don't remember the outcome of the mother. I just knew she was gone. I don't know what she actually did.
Yeah.
You know that was based on just a short story?
I love that.
It's not even a book. It's just a short story.
So freaking good.
I know. It is good.
It's one of my favorites.
I mean, we keep referencing the king, where the warrior needs to go.
Yeah.
And I just think of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. I mean, this is why such a good character in the book and the movie. The movie does a good job with the transition, where like he's not the boy hero, right? You can maybe even make an argument that Boromir is the hero because he wants to go get the ring, he wants to bring it back. Like maybe his intentions are good, but like
I don't think his intentions are good.
No, you're
right. But that's beside the point.
Okay, you're right. They're not. Well, obviously not because he was very easily corrupted. So yeah. But much more eager for the mission for the fight and not about like, well, what is the right thing to do? Like, what is our purpose? Aragorn survives and they complete the mission, and then his whole arc is becoming the king, and he does that. Like that's his whole thing struggling with is becoming realizing or like growing into worthiness of being the king and sticking it out. Like he's not just like, okay, I'm the hero, peace, I'm gonna go be a ranger again.
Right.
And just bachelor it up in the woods with my elf buddies.
No,
he gets married, settles down, grows a sick beard, grows a king beard.
He moves through the lover to get to the king.
Well, he moves through the warrior to get to the king, like with the help of the lover.
With the help of the lover,
right? I think like leans into the lover to get to the king.
Yeah.
So good. So the warrior, from what I've read, has the following characteristics. I mean, the boy, like I think we've said, action for action's sake.
Right.
Impetuous. I thought of Han Solo in the original Star Wars.
Yeah.
Kind of that hero. Even by the end of that movie, where he does have the arc, where he realizes he's not about himself, he wants to be part of the rebellion, he's not the warrior, he's still the boy, in my opinion.
Yes.
One example of the scene that is when they're trying to get to the Millennium Falcon on the Death Star, and they turn a corner and see a stormtrooper and he shoots it. And he just starts running, the other ones are running away, and he just follows them. And they're like, the Princess Leia is like, well, he certainly has courage. He's like, what? And Luke says, what good would it do us if he gets himself killed? And he's like screaming, running after the stormtrooper, turns another corner, and then there's an entire room of them. That is just the action for action's sake, the not thinking about it, and just reacting. I'm like, that is total hero boy energy.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think, here's another thing, Captain America, up through Infinity War. Here's why.
Okay.
And I saw this great fan theory about it. And I saw this a week ago. I loved it so much. In the movie Age of Ultron, right? Scarlet Witch does her magic and like gets in all the Avengers' heads, right? Yep. And she presents them with their worst case scenario. What do they fear? Tony sees all the Avengers dead, right? Thor has a vision, or like Black Widow sees like a flashback of herself in like Black Widow training, right? And that old trauma. Thor, I think, has a vision of going to Asgard, and Idris Elba's character, whose name I forget, is just like, we are all like Asgard will be destroyed. We are all dead, which is
Mhm.
like Ragnarok, right? He's like worried about that. Cap's vision was the only one that was like actually fine. It was set in peacetime. There's a dance, right? And it's like Peggy was there and says, "Why don't you just come home? Like we can be a family." His worst nightmare was was living without a war.
Yeah.
And Ultron even says that in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's why we see it. And that's why someone says...
I just got goosebumps.
Right? And that's why someone said that's why he couldn't lift Mjolnir in the beginning of that movie. With all riff about it, like, he nudged it a bit. And some theory was like, oh, he didn't want to show up Thor, make him feel bad.
No.
This theory is like, he actually couldn't.
He couldn't.
Because he wasn't quite worthy. It wasn't until after the events of Infinity War, where everyone gets snapped and they lose.
Yeah.
And what does he do? We see him in Endgame 5 years later. What is he doing? He's counseling people.
Yep.
He is helping people. He is adjusting to life. Like, yes, he's still, of course, upset about, like, the loss, right? Like, how many people died, and, like, he's struggling with that. But he's using his time to try to help people. And that was a major event for him in making him worthy. Is, like, learning to live without the war.
Well, since you went to, like, total... Marvel universe. I've got to counter it. I got to counter it with something for the ladies.
It's about polarity.
Not that Marvel isn't for the ladies, but we don't tend to get into it in the same way, I think. Jamie from Outlander.
Oh, okay, sure.
You know, in the first probably like 3 books, I would say, he's the hero. And we joke constantly, like, when I'll turn some of the shows on or whatever, we'll joke, because you're like, Claire and Jamie could not make it work if there wasn't this constant drama going on in their lives. Like,
right, it's like
that's what propels their relationship forward. And there's a lot of people in a lot of relationships that are in the shadow aspects of their archetypes. And so, like, drama for drama's sake.
Right, or like, you know, they meet during times of high conflict or drama and don't know
high stress, high cortisol.
Well, that's why, I don't want to interrupt you, but, like, when The Force Awakens came out, I wasn't against the idea of Han Solo and Princess Leia not being together because they got together under such stress.
Yeah.
I hated that they basically made him regress.
Yeah.
Like, he had growth throughout those 3 films.
He did.
He became the hero. He grew up, he found a cause bigger than himself, and he actually then decided to, like, I will be invested in this enough to see it through.
Yeah.
Great. But then, like, I don't mind that they're not together, but, like, you just made him, like, the schlubby version of himself. I'm like, God damn it, man. Why do we hate our heroes? Sorry. Go ahead. But yes.
Yes.
I always go to, there's no way
that they would stay together if there wasn't this constant threat,
but I
right?
mean, is life in the 1700s not
a constant threat, right?
I mean, no, I mean, I think it might be for Claire, who grew up in the 40s with relative comfort. I mean, during the war, but she does not have the comforts of 20th century Britain. Now she's living in the 1700s, so, like, maybe that is enough of a stress juice.
Maybe.
You know, I don't know.
I mean, well, and Claire has her thing because she is... Like, she surpasses through the mother archetype and moves into the witch pretty fast. And Jamie kind of hangs out in the warrior. Like, he hangs out. And he's the hero at first. And then he does grow into, you know, this is our homestead. I'm protecting us, our family, our legacy.
Are you going to when they move to America? Or
when they're in, like, South Carolina or whatever, right? And so he does progress, and he does have he has some attributes of the king that shows up, but he's always been connected to the lover aspect. So,
warrior?
Lover.
Okay.
I mean, he starts off as the hero.
Right.
He moves through the lover, and he can tap into the king, but ultimately he represents the warrior in a lot of ways, and being the force of protection. I mean, we have to remember that the whole reason that Jamie and Claire got married was to protect her from British soldiers, from the dragoons.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a warrior move right there. It's a hero move if it's temporary. If he's like, oh, I thought this was a good idea, but then I realized marriage means forever.
Ever. 1700s, forever isn't that long.
Forever isn't that long. so he's able to progress into that more mature masculine energy relatively quickly for a character.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. But in like real life.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So we're talking a lot about archetypes through fantasy, through characters, and I think that that's helpful as a guide. And you brought up a good point. I think we talked about this with our friends one time too, where like all the dude friends were like, hey, we got to just show up in the archetypes you need us to be in. Yes, you do. 100%. Because if you're going to claim, that you are masculine dominant energetically, and you want to play that role most of the time in your relationship with someone who's feminine dominant, then yes, you're making the choice to take on the role of showing up in service, right? Masculine energy gives, feminine energy receives. So when the feminine is in the mother archetype, we are seeking that holding space, protective energy, taking care of the details of things so that there can be room for growth, expansion, creation, caregiving without constantly like being on guard and looking around all over the place.
Yeah. And that's as a masculine person, that's a hard thing. I mean, a lot of trust needs to be present because you run the risk of being of service to someone who, you're not a servant, you are of service.
Right.
And I think there's a difference. And if you're someone who is toxic, unhealthy, then you run that risk. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that's not uncommon. Like,
right.
So the warrior, I think we mentioned a lot of this, but I want to hit my bullet points. The verbs that were mentioned in the book: rouses, motivates, and aggressiveness in right circumstances, which we kind of rouses is good. Like I think it's like I think of I'm going back to Marvel. I'm sorry.
All right.
Is Cap's speech in Winter Soldier when he's talking to like he's on the intercom on the helicarrier and he's like, "Shield is now Hydra." It's like, I'm gonna fight this fight alone, and I will. But I bet there's others out there that feel the same way, kind of thing. And then, like, the true act of heroism in that movie is the dude that is, like, at the console, and is, like, the guy behind him is, like, launch all the satellites or launch the ships. He's like, can't do it. Cap's orders. And the dude's holding a gun to the back of his head, and he's just, like, a worker. He's, like, he's just a regular dude. Yep. And he's just, like, no, this is my stand. I'm not going to do it. Cap's orders. Oh, so good. But that's a rousing moment. Anyway. I like assesses their own like limitations and capacities, like knowing what they're capable of, knowing what they can do, and not saying that like this might be hard, I don't know if I can do it, but being realistic and saying, you know what, maybe I can't take on an entire room of 6 stormtroopers. Maybe I can't do that. Maybe I should not have chased this one. That was stupid. Acting decisively within control, and this is another one. Transpersonal or interpersonal relationships is big. And I just think as I'm reading these, my first thought again goes to what a Jedi Knight is supposed to be, right? Which is why I hated the episodes of The Acolyte.
We're not going to go into that.
We're not.
Right
but
now.
Like, because I'm thinking these are what, like, like, just because you talk slowly and seem stoic doesn't make you a Jedi. Why are they like, you need to be emotionally connected to the people you are serving and working with. I mean, that part is essential for a healthy warrior archetype.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, it's so tricky in, when we think about like our political landscape or the leaders that are out there that have a lot of warrior energy, if they're not connected to the emotional well-being of whoever it is that they're responsible for lack of a better word, right?
Represent or serve.
That is a slippery slope. That is a dangerous place to be in. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't I feel fine saying that Tim Waltz gives off that energy. No, I'm serious. We're like, seems like, I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast in our last, front desk a couple weeks ago. You go through his record and it's like, what was the intent? Like, there's a lot of healthy warrior energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you can hear it when he talks about like, school lunch programs, when he talked about how he brought the Gay Straight Alliance into the high school. Like, it was about the greater community and making sure that people can be safe. That is warrior energy. That's healthy warrior energy.
Yeah, totally.
Is about safety, protection, security, but in a balanced, healthy way. Yeah. And ensuring that, because that leads to an overall greater sense of well-being, happiness, and health within a community of people. So yeah, all of that is warrior energy. I would say, it's kind of like I'm gonna bring like real life into it.
Thank you. We need that balance because we can't live in fantasy land like I do half the time.
When the morale is low.
Yeah.
In life.
Right.
And this could be at work, but I'm going to use the example of like at home in the house, so a solid experience that I think is pretty universal is moving. If you've ever packed up an entire house and moved from one place to another, let alone done it with children, there's going to be some moments, right, of like potential meltdown where the children don't want to be packing.
Pause. Damn it.
What?
It says like my storage is full. Oh, never mind.
Just hit record again. Nope.
What the hell? God damn it. That's really annoying. Well.
The rest of this episode might be just me.
How long have we recorded?
52 minutes.
Oh, okay.
We're
So we
gonna
can
wrap
wrap
up.
it up.
Yeah.
So the memory that I have is the kids kind of all being in like meltdown zone. They're like, I don't want to do this, Todd. I don't like it. I don't want to pack anything. I don't want to carry a box.
Which time are you referring to?
This was moving from the big move from Hoosick Falls.
Out here.
Yeah.
Okay.
To Ithaca, and you just kind of gave the like Coach O'Neill rally the troops speech.
Did they really?
Oh yeah.
I have zero recollection of this.
I mean, probably because you were so exhausted. I mean, we were just exhausted, and
What I even?
And you were just like, this sucks. None of us want to be doing this, right? And it's temporary. We're gonna come together. It's gonna be behind us really soon. And being in this like funk about it isn't going to make it go any faster. It's not going to make it go any easier. And so in that moment, like I could soften into like a nurturing, mothering archetype of like, yep, this is hard. I know it's hard. I'm here for you guys. Like, yep, there's a lot of feelings going on. There's a lot of stuff to a move. But I could be that and in that vulnerability in the mothering archetype because you stepped up into that warrior archetype and you were like, we're going to rouse this group of adolescents to get through the next 36 hours that it was going to take to be on the other side of the move. And so that's an example, of just that polarity coming out and showing up in real life. And had you gone to like any other archetype at that time, I would have had to step into my masculine or my intense mothering archetype, which nobody wants.
No.
Nobody wants her to come to anything.
Well, yeah, but sometimes it's necessary. But I mean, that's the point of polarity, where if you're with someone who you balance well with, you don't need to be like the intense one or have the intense mothering energy when the opposite, and its polar opposite, is rousing warrior energy. Rousing and motivational.
Yep.
You know what I mean? With like, think of yourselves in these scenarios.
Yeah.
Or, do you have to slide into the intense mother archetype because who you're with is
children?
Because of you either have no other one to balance,
right?
Or the person you're with balances with like authoritarian tyrant energy,
right?
Exactly. Which then I gotta slip into a different energy, and it's not really the one I want to be in for what we have to do right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing that I loved is the examples of training mind and body and spirit for healthy warrior. Mm-hmm. And it just makes me think of all the warrior programs at Wi-Fi, like spiritual warrior, kundalini, radiant warrior. The idea is that the body is trained and the mind is trained and the spirit. All are important. All are so essential. And I think it is so easy for the masculine-centered person to train the body. Mm-hmm. It's then easy to train the mind, provided someone, likes to read. I mean, it's not, hopefully.
Yep. Well, and, the way to the mind is often through the body.
Right.
So simply by the nature of training your body, your mind will respond to that regimen, that discipline, that all of those things, new habits, right?
Yeah.
And training your soul,
training the spirit is, well, I think in the introduction of this book is a great chapter. The introduction is like the crisis in masculine ritual that is not present in its fullest capacity. Right. If we think about typical masculine rituals from boyhood to manhood, like what are they? Mostly athletic, going through school age sports.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one. And there's not a lot of emphasis placed on emotional ritual, spiritual ritual, all the time. I think they don't take priority.
Right.
And it's definitely in our society today where it's much more accepted to have a physical ritual and maybe a learning ritual or growing the mind. I think... I would hope, but then the spirit is definitely third on the list.
Yeah,
and I think that is a crisis. And God, there was a great quote, and I think I identified it with so much. Part of the problem is they called it the pedagogy of sugar balls. It's like the pedagogy of.
Just find it.
Okay. I don't even know where it is. Maybe it was in the beginning. It's the King chapter. But I identified it mostly because of I had memories of being a young boy in elementary school, in a Catholic elementary school, where most of the teachers were women. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to speak for everyone, but I have many, many memories of a middle-aged. There weren't many young teachers when I was in grade school.
Mostly and these were not nuns.
No.
Yeah.
I had maybe one nun as an actual classroom teacher, and she was the best one. Mm-hmm. She really was. That was the one, Sister Natalie, my mom will talk about, that was let me be creative. And she was like, that was the best year of school you ever had. But just how they didn't know how to handle crazy boy energy.
Right.
So it comes across as like, God, I hate you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and that's how a lot of us felt sometimes. Mm-hmm. We're just like, we're crazy, we're off the wall, we're 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old boys, and we don't know, our brains are mush, we don't know how to behave and act, and we know we're crazy.
Well, you know what that speaks to for me?
Yeah.
Is that many women who reach middle age are still surrounded by masculine energy that is immature.
Yes.
So the adult men in their lives are still behaving like young boys, energetically, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
And so they have this false narrative that they can break it out of them earlier, right? And that if somebody had done this to these other men,
right,
then they wouldn't have to deal with their young boy energy, when that's not the age that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing developmentally at that time. And if you let them progress through that and you give them nurturing and compassion and connect them to the emotionality, then you can help to foster, that warrior that they can grow into. But that just speaks to me of a bunch of women, which is probably why the nun didn't have this experience. A bunch of women who are surrounded by young man energy that they are resentful for, because they don't feel safe. They don't feel like they can take care of what they need to take care of in their feminine, receptive way. They feel like the adult men in their lives are more children that they have to take care of in their lives.
I found it. It says some psychologists see human aggressiveness emerging out of infantile rage, the child's natural reaction to what Alice Miller has called poisonous pedagogy, the abuse of baby boys. That's like, well, I hate, my schooling was not terrible.
It wasn't poisonous pedagogy.
It wasn't, I wasn't beaten. I wasn't constantly yelled at. Well, I don't fucking know. I mean, I would wager that a lot of times we had it coming. Sure. But sometimes we had it. We were just like, we are young boys,
right? That
don't know how to behave, and like, there's no masculine example in this building.
Right.
There is zero.
Yeah.
So no one either knows. There's no one for us to say that's how we should behave, and there's no one to be like, I remember being that. Here's how you handle it.
Yep.
But yeah, I just remember I remember leaving grade school and be like, God, they hate us. They all hate us. And then the girls and our peers, naturally more calm, a little bit more like level-headed at times, or just like did not behave the same way, and they could be like, oh, I remember being a girl and I remember seeing this.
Yeah.
I can deal with this. This, on the other hand, pure chaos. I don't know what to do.
Well, not just that. I mean, and this is probably a topic for another time, but public school and the structure of educational, just the ways that we expect young people to behave is much more geared towards submissive feminine that we have ingrained in most young women from a very early age.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, as long as you are docile, as long as you, I mean, what did I say? We were talking about this the other day, and it was like, yeah, if you can fall in line and take orders and not ask any questions and not buck any system, I'm like, yeah, you'd make a great stormtrooper. Right? Like, that is what we expect of young girls in schools, and they get positive feedback from doing that, and they're more likely to respond in that way. And then there's always, I mean, like Abby was a great example of, like, she was very, very good in school. She got really great grades, but man, would she say it if she thought that something was not okay, not right, not in alignment. Like, she wasn't ever passive in that way. And then she would get in trouble because of that, because she was unwilling to be passive. And so many young boys that behave that way, it's like, oh, well, this is just how boys are. And it's like, could it be that they're like bored out of their mind, that they need to move more? Lots of things. So I think that there's a point there in just, I mean, poisonous pedagogy has got a ring to it.
I know.
Shit.
I saw that. I'm like, oh, that one.
Yeah.
That one tugged at the core. Ugh.
Yeah.
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 Well, sorry to end on such a bummer.
I mean, I think that it comes down to recognizing where these archetypes are within us.
Yeah.
Both masculine and feminine. Where you see yourself as the hero, where you see yourself as a warrior, where you see yourself as the caregiver, caretaker, nurturer. What brings that out in you, and what makes you resentful of any of those roles. And the partners that you choose to be with and spend time with, what are the archetypes that you really enjoy when they step into? And just, it starts with awareness. It starts with the conscious, just bringing it into a conscious contemplation around who we are, how we be in the world, how we interact with one another. And it's like, oh, I can see in this moment, that your hero archetype is rubbing my mother archetype the wrong way.
Right.
Like, it feels erratic. It feels all over the place. Sometimes I think like that hero-y energy comes out, and it's irritating for me when there's a lot of competition.
Okay.
Like when masculine shows up in a lot of competition, or like they're playing a game and they get all bitchy, or like, and I say they because this is never you.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess if it wasn't, we wouldn't be here.
No, because I would be so like, stop it.
Right.
This is a game. We're playing a game. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be fun. And recognizing like we have to have the words to communicate around the things that work really well in relationship together and the things that don't work.
Yeah, I think it gives a great framework for, and I would be shocked if a lot of couples didn't have the problem of like, why are you not what I need right now?
Right.
You know, like,
Right.
and not because you're actively choosing not to be, or you just aren't, and like there's no language or understanding
Yeah.
about that.
Yep.
And that's why I find this friggin' brilliant.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, shoot, maybe you sold me on why I should talk about it a little bit.
I mean.
Well, we'll see. We got a long car ride. We'll kick it around and we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
But
Sounds good.
this was a good primer. And as always, whenever we deep dive into like the analysis of these archetypes, I am always just, my mind is always blown.
Mine too. I love it so much.
I do. I'm more talking about...
I mean, this is what we should be learning in middle school.
Yes, I'm talking about your knowledge of it and like listening. I just read the book. I didn't do anything special.
Where do you think I got this information from?
Well,
Reading books.
Yeah, but I mean, you're so good with it. So.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you're so cute.
Thank
I love
you. Well, thanks everyone for the Wi-Fi pod. See you in 3 weeks.
We'll see you soon.
This is Matt.
This is Jeannie.
Thank you.